cuts of beef or anything like that. We're literally talking about mush and, meal and, parts of the pig that were less desirable. And then just as time went on, people just kind of had developed a taste for it.
Yo guys, this is Olufemi from the Sample Lounge, and you're listening to the Woke by Accident podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest. Today we have Sean Connors, self-proclaimed computer nerd, single father, Christian, LVAD-enabled podcaster, podcast producer, content creator, sneakerhead, foodie, and the owner of Connors Studios Digital Media. Sean hosts and is responsible for a podcast called 757 Renaissance Man and LVAD Talk. And Sean will join me today to discuss the impact of cardiovascular health on the Black family, and he will also share a bit of his story. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here.
Good. It's good to have you here, friend. And so we're going to be talking about cardiovascular health. February is Heart Month as well as Black History Month. So I have my Black friend here that will discuss cardiovascular health for Heart Month and why this is important to our community. This also is a personal issue for me. My father dealt with heart issues, COPD in particular, which stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, before he passed away, along with obesity. Cardiovascular disease is very prominent in the Black community. And so there are a few statistics that I wanted to put out there before we begin our discussion. And so according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, African Americans were 30% more likely to die from heart disease than non-Hispanic whites, although African American adults are 40% more likely to have high blood pressure than non-Hispanic whites, which have their blood pressure under control. Another one I wanted to share was from Mount Sinai. .org was heart disease is the leading killer for all Americans, and research suggests that African Americans may carry a gene which makes them more salt sensitive, increasing the risk of high blood pressure and heart disease. So we know a lot of African Americans have high blood pressure and things like that. So this information is saying that there's a gene that is responsible for that. So that's interesting to know. Also, African Americans are disproportionately affected by obesity among non-Hispanic Blacks 20 and older. 60% of men and 77% of women are overweight or obese. And so additionally, African Americans are more likely to have diabetes than non-Hispanic whites. And the American Heart Association recently issued a scientific statement highlighting the public health burden of cardiovascular disease. So those are some of the things that I want to share. So it's just, being Black has a lot of pressure on it, to say the least. But this is, personal for you for a different reason. And so I wanted to have you share about that. And first, thank you for sharing and being comfortable with us to share your story.
No problem. One of the things, though, I feel is related. It goes back further than just modern times and our modern diet. A lot of it goes back to slavery and the foods that we were forced to eat. That's why I feel a lot of these diseases are prevalent in our communities.
Definitely. That's a good point. As we may recall, and if you don't know, listeners, please read up on it. In slavery times, we were given leftovers, literally what was left over from whites at that time. And so, as you can imagine, it wasn't, prime cuts of beef or anything like that. We're literally talking about mush and, meal and, parts of the pig that were less desirable. And then just as time went on, people just kind of had developed a taste for it. If you just tradition and things like that, but it's not good for us, is it?
Not at all.
Definitely,
And that
yeah.
diet. Well, so we already have another. So we're our cause is multiplicably complicated because we already have that bad diet that Americans already are known for having, and on top of that, we eat the worst of the bad American diet. So over generations and generations, you develop heart disease and diabetes and high blood pressure.
Right. So, what we consume is, plays a big part in it. Aside from, there's a thing with genes that may be, out of our control. I wanted you to share what you deal with your heart condition. A lot of people may not be aware. I think before I met you, I wasn't familiar with it. And so I knew like all the things my dad dealt with, having a irregular heartbeat and COPD, and had a lot of other like eye pressure conditions, as it's all related, you know what I mean. And he just struggled, with along with obesity, and a lot of Black people deal with this. And so you deal with something, I guess I won't say it's unique, but maybe rare. If you could share your condition and how this has impacted your life.
Yeah, I have what's called an LVAD. Basically, the left side of my heart doesn't work. So I have a mechanical pump that pumps the blood from out of my heart into my body, and then the right side of my heart pumps the blood from my body into my heart. So basically, that's all handled by a machine. I went through what was called chronic heart failure, led on by AFib, which is when your heart beats uncontrollably fast.
Okay. And you said you were born with this condition, Sean, is that right?
Well, I was born with a heart condition, but not specifically that condition. I've always
Okay.
been a heart patient since I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how was that like growing up having the condition? Was it difficult? Or in what ways was it difficult for you?
Well, after I had surgery, I was 3 when I had my first open heart surgery.
Mhm.
After that, I was a regular kid. So to me, it wasn't anything different. For my parents, it might have been a little bit different, a little bit nerve wracking. But in my mind, I was still a super kid, so it didn't really bother me.
Mhm.
I really didn't have any complications until I got to my late 30s.
Okay. Okay. And so you have the pump, the mechanical pump, and so that allows you to breathe comfortably and such.
Yes.
Okay. And so you created a podcast community and a podcast, which actually turned into sort of advocacy for cardiovascular efforts. And so I wanted to share because I'm really impressed and, thrilled that you thought to do such a thing, create a podcast about your condition and reaching out to others. And you actually like seek out other people who are dealing with it. So tell us about that part.
Well, it's primarily born out of not being able to get any information. So when I found out that I had to go through it,
Hmm.
I looked it up. And if you look it up, you don't find too much stuff. You go to YouTube, you see a whole bunch of doctors speak, but not like regular people telling their stories or what it's like to live with it. So I figured that was a need that needed to be filled. Little did I know that by letting people talk and tell their stories, it was therapy for a lot of these people. And it helped not only them, but others with their conditions kind of deal with it.
Okay. And I've seen you speak with people from, all races, all over the country. Is this something that is more prevalent in African Americans per se, or just anybody? Or
Heart, heart, um, heart disease is the number one killer in the world, only second only to cancer. So
hmm
it affects everybody. I talk to people from all over America, all over Europe, everybody. So it doesn't matter. It's not just a racial thing. Now we might suffer from it more disproportionately than others, but yes, it's something that affects everybody.
Definitely. We talked about diet and things like that. I'm going to try to pull up your show on my other screen while I'm doing that. What do you think are some of the things that would help combat heart and other cardiovascular um, conditions, or that impacts the Black community so greatly?
Not only the Black community, but the American community, the way
Mhm.
that a lot of this food is marketed to us like it's healthy. Like growing up, you thought a combo meal was a good thing. It was a meal. It got meal in it, but there ain't nothing in there healthy for you. So I think one of the ways that can help is just the way we market these meals and these foods, and especially the way they market it to the kids. And they don't never market anything healthy, or they don't tell you what's healthy, or they don't tell you that, yeah, eat this burger, is good and delicious, but it has so many grams of fat.
Right.
I don't know about you, but coming
Definitely.
up, I
So,
thought a hamburger and fries, that was the side, that was the vegetables.
for sure. So we need to incorporate fruits and vegetables into our diet, guys, for sure. And then I wanted to show Sean's website, and check out Go, which includes an image of him, wearing his device that is a part of his life. Because I think I asked you about that, and you said it's a part of me, so I had it included. Tell us more about the LVAD talk.
Like I said, it's a way where people that have LVADs or are going through heart transplant have a place, a community to share, to meet, to tell their stories in a real way, not just a corporate way or corporately approved medically way. They tell the real deal, the good and the bad.
Definitely. I think that's great. And even kids, right? That's awesome. You've spoken with some kids on your show.
Yes, there are even kids that suffer with this.
Definitely. That are willing to share alchemy. Of course, your babies and children dealing with so many things, but I think that's great to, hear their perspective and let them share their story as well. So, the name of the podcast rather is LVAD Talk, and you can find it on all of places and on lvadtalk.com as well, guys. So I just wanted to show that because I think that's really neat. Now, Sean, you told me before that you were an ambassador. Is that right? That you do some ambassador work for the organization?
For Abbott, they're the company that makes the device that I wear. Yes.
Okay. Okay, for sure. Great. So I think that's great that Sean is definitely an advocate for promoting, wellness and health education, which is really important. In addition to making changes with our diet, education, like you said, a lot of information is not available, and so he sought that out with starting the podcast on the subject. Now, you also host another podcast. Tell us a bit about your other podcast.
Yeah, that's my baby. That's the 757 Renaissance Man. Talks about all things 757, which is the Hampton Roads community that raised me. We talk to a lot of movers and shakers, entrepreneurs, entertainers, business people, anybody that's doing anything in the Hampton Roads area, we talk to.
That's awesome. And then, what would you share as far as, with everything you have to deal with your health condition? What motivates you to, keep going and, do your podcast? And you also have a thriving photography business and passion for that. What are some, with everything you have to deal with, what motivates you to keep going?
I got 2 kids, plain and simple. I
For
keep going
sure.
for them. I'm trying to leave a legacy for them, and that's what makes me get up every day.
Love to hear that. You're definitely setting the stage and creating a great legacy for your family. Love to hear that. Let's conclude with a question from our good friends at Poddex. So I'll ask you, what is one thing Oh, hang on. I don't like that one. Okay, here's a good one. So, what is the last thing you've done that you were really proud of? It's a good one.
Um, Most of the time, the stuff that makes me proud is watching my kids do stuff. I watched my son do a studio shoot by himself the other day, and I was over the moon. So yeah, stuff like that. That's what makes me proud.
That's awesome. And then, where did he get that from? Who taught him how to work a camera like that, right?
Hanging out, you had to learn something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Some kids might find it boring to learn that kind of thing, but I think that's great that you showed him that, this is something that not only can be enjoyable, but, you can turn this into a business, son.
Right, correct.
Definitely. So that's awesome. Let's do one more for the road since we're doing good on time. What is something that well, I guess we kind of already said that, but what is something that you don't mind sharing with other people?
Knowledge. I think
Knowledge.
that I got where I am by other people reaching down and teaching me. So I'll be a fool not to reach down and teach others.
Awesome. Love that. All right. And then I think we already said that where your podcast can be found, but anything else to share about your podcast or what you want people to know about LVAD Talk?
Just check out elvadtalk.com. Real stories, real people. It'll give you some insight to what it's like to live with heart disease. Also, check out the 757renaissanceman.com. New season's starting to record soon, so be on the lookout for that. And thank you, Jen, for being a good friend and always looking out for your boy.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Yeah, please check out the show, guys. I know I've gotten some of my guests, or I guess we share some same guests that have appeared on your show. And I'm like, oh, they were on your show first. Okay. So I guess great minds think alike. I really enjoyed your episodes. So I will definitely have those links listed so people can check that out. And thank you again for sharing your story. It was very personal and I appreciate it for Heart Month for February. Let's, definitely try to make that a challenge, a personal challenge to do better with our health. Because, some people have to deal with, a lot, obviously. So again, thank you, Sean, and we wish you well. And we appreciate you stopping through.
Thank you. Woke by
All
accident.
right.
Peace.
For sure. Have a great one. Thanks for listening, guys. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. And please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.